This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
.07 at WPSL 1590, the talk of the Treasure Coast. You're on Ask a Rabbi.
And this is Rabbi Shafir Loeb of Congregation Eitz Chayim, your Jewish home on the Treasure Coast. And there are my glasses so I can actually see the world now.
No.
That works better. Yeah, it's just
Why do you want to do that?
Sometimes you just have to open your eyes and look at the world.
Sometimes misty photography isn't all that bad.
I have my misty photography moments for sure. So that's one of the things that my first photography teacher taught me was always take the shot you get, then go in for the good one.
Yeah, there you go.
Because sometimes the only thing you get is that shot.
Yeah, and one of my friends took a picture in, what was it, the Malibu Pier? No. Oh, gosh, I can't think of the
one of those.
Name of the pier. It's one of the piers in Southern California. Anyway, this view only occurs twice a year.
Wow.
And he got it. And It was like, you see the setting sun right through this pier. It's a spectacular shot. But I was thinking, okay, how long did you have to wait to get that shot? And it was amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. It's the way it is.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, Arizona Magazine is sending tons of stuff Sabino Canyon related. I've been posting some of it on Facebook. Some beautiful, Arizona Magazine's amazing.
Sabino Canyon is definitely one of God's play toys.
Yeah. Oh,
absolutely.
Yeah. No doubt about it. It's
If you've never been to Sabino Canyon, there's the tourist group advertisement for Tucson. If you've never been to Sabino Canyon, that is worth a trip to Tucson. Go up the tram. If you're physically able, walk down.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not, do the stops and stop every stop and just look and see what nature has done in that incredible piece of mountain. Yeah, Tucson, for those who don't know, is surrounded by mountain ranges.
Mm-hmm.
It's seemingly in a bowl. I get yelled at when I say that by people, but it really is. It's a piece of flat land for the most part until you get into the foothills of the various mountain ranges.
Well, you think Phoenix has the nickname Valley of the Sun, but it is a bowl.
It is a bowl. It is absolutely a bowl, and it captures the sun quite well. And the sun, as I like to point out to people, is unrelenting. That's the big thing in Tucson. There's just not a ton of clouds to cover it, except in monsoon season.
The other thing Phoenix has over Los Angeles, or has over Tucson, is Los Angeles smog that travels down I-10.
Yes.
And sits.
And is added to by Phoenix dwellers.
Oh, yeah, you bet.
Right. So Tucson is much cleaner, much clearer, beautiful dark skies. They actually they consider dark sky as one of the resources for Tucson, and that's done as a respectful thing to Kitt Peak and the observatory that's there, one of the last optical observatories that can still function. But even with the dark sky requirements, which means that street lights and house lights don't shine up, they only shine down, which actually is much more efficient. We're starting to see some dark sky kind of lighting here even in Port St. Lucie. I've noticed more of it, but it's probably more cost effective. It certainly is reasonable with LEDs that you can aim it much better.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah.
So we've got better technology for lighting now. But dark skies in Tucson, and if you get a chance, the other thing that I would say, a couple of things in Tucson you really need to do. It's worth a trip. One is Kitt Peak. You have to make a reservation, though.
Yeah, they are starting to take reservations, and they're going to be open on the weekends.
Right. And so you can go on Kitt Peak's website, make a reservation, plan your trip around that, because Sabino Canyon's always open. unless it's actively raining. And the other things that are there, the Tucson Desert Museum, that's something you can always go to. So if you plan it around Kitt Peak and maybe plan a trip up to Biosphere too and see that.
I've got to do that.
Those are definitely things worth going to Tucson to see and do. You can make a beautiful vacation of that. So there you are, Chamber of Commerce, you've got your ad. Unpaid for. Anybody else who wants to sponsor can do that. I am looking for sponsors for Ask a Rabbi.
All right, Tucson Chamber, come on, buy some time here.
There you go. Yeah. No, Tucson is a great place. It looks like we've got somebody on the phone, however.
Oh, okay.
So let me put the headset on. And hi, Jerry. Thank you for calling from Fort Pierce.
Thank you, Rabbi. It's been a while since I talked to you. I was wondering about the term auspices. I had a stroke a couple of years ago, and it can be hard to understand, but AU, auspices, and I thought it meant parameters of whatever. I thought it meant boundary, parameters, but I looked it up in the Webster's Dictionary. There's only two sentences. They mention something about omen. And I always assumed when they said the auspices or in other words, or parameters or boundaries. And I just wonder if you could clear that up, because they only get two sentences in the Webster's Dictionary. It mentions something about an omen. And so the term is auspices. I'd like to listen off air, Rabbi, if that's okay.
Sure, no problem, Jerry. Thank you for that. Okay, and so, there are a couple of different meanings for auspices, and in general, you would use it as you said, parameters or jurisdiction, right? The research is done under the auspices of a certain organization. That's the more common use, but it also, as you said, has an older, one of its older meanings means a prophetic sign or a favorable sign. So, which is not uncommon in English for there to be multiple meanings for a given word. And meanings of words change. So thank you for that, Jerry. Thank you for calling and asking about auspices. And that's actually a great springboard to one of my soapboxes, which is children of the world and their parents. This is addressed to you. Please work at increasing students' and children's and your own vocabulary, because one of the keys to intelligence is vocabulary. It will open more and more doors. Imagine if you're spending all your time either not understanding what you're hearing or seeing or reading, or spending it looking it up on the dictionary and trying to figure out which of the meanings something is. If you understand the words, then you're already ahead of the game. It's a great, it's one of the challenges that I have. We, unfortunately, we tend to dumb down the language that we use to speak. And so it's funny because sometimes I'm told, well, you talk like a professor, and gee, imagine that. I are one.
That's it.
Right, and even so, I'm not using the language that I write with. What I write with is still a notch or three up, because it's formal academic writing for the most part. Not the book, not so much the book that Dr. Strahan and I put out, but it does have some vocabulary in it that I'm sure some people will not understand. And if English is your second language, then please work on vocabulary. Regardless, vocabulary is just so important. And the more that you spend time learning new words and acquiring them and putting them in your dictionary, the longer you'll keep your brain functioning well. Because as long as you're learning new vocabulary, you are building neural networks.
I was going to ask you, do your students at either Kaiser or IRC, do they write in cursive?
They don't need to. They really don't. And,
really?
And I don't. The only thing that I do in cursive is sign my name on forms, such as, segue, folks, such as an intern licenseship from the state of Florida.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You got it, finally.
I did. It was issued Monday. I am IMH 24796. One more number to put in my lexicon.
So is that the way we need to intro you now?
No, we do not need to.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, congratulations.
Thank you. Many phone calls. There was a phone call. There were actually 2 more phone calls Friday on the subject, besides the one that I actually took during the radio show last week. And then there was one in and one out on Monday. The one saying, you said by Monday you'd get to this, and at little after 5 our time, they called me, and I'm like, I can't believe it, they're staying late. And then somebody said, they're in Tallahassee. It's Central Time. And I realized that, yes, it was close of business for them, but wasn't quite as late as it felt to me.
Yeah, there you go. Well, congratulations.
Yeah. I am so thrilled. So I'm up on psych today, but I now have to write a bio, and I have to do this, and I have to do that. And I just put in my paperwork with Liberty for my practicum. So I've got practicum, internship, all of this stuff going on, and 2 big papers left for the term for me to turn in. And, of course, I'm about halfway through the semester, with IRSC students. 2 classes in face-to-face and 2 online. And, of course, my Kaiser classes. I've got 2 classes this month at Kaiser. Kaiser classes at Port St. Lucie are 4 weeks long, except for the nursing program.
Is it more difficult teaching online than face? I would think. Of course, I'm a visual person, and I really need to see my professor and not on a screen.
Well, first of all, I think you'll get used to the screen. Secondly, there are many, many videos and different ways. Some online have no interaction, and it's just articles and videos and email with the professor. Others have videos from the professor. Some, like my group therapy class, we meet for 2 hours a week on the screen. And we learn to conduct therapy on the screen.
Okay.
So I think that's important, and yeah. And I'm paranoid about missing those or being late to them. I did miss them for the Jewish holidays, thank you. But we work around everything else. So it is a challenge, and.
So are the folks at Liberty asking the same question that I am, that you've already got a doctorate in this stuff? Why are you taking this?
I'm taking it to satisfy Florida licensing requirements.
Oh, gosh.
I would not have gotten the intern licenseship even with the doctorate in psychology, well, they and I are still having a discussion. There's 11 courses that you have to have satisfied, and one of them is on human sexuality, and the state and I are going round and round as to whether or not the courses I took at National are too specified, or if they are in fact broad enough to cover sexuality.
Well, our governor's probably going to kill that course anyway.
Yeah, it could be. But that is that's one of the requirements. It's interesting. It's not one of the requirements. For example, in Virginia, each state licenses counselors slightly differently. And so it's not a requirement in Virginia, so it's not a requirement in their KCREP approved program, because they're working for, the rule is they have to meet all of the requirements of the state where they're located, but offer the additional courses as electives for other states. So, for example, the 2 courses that are not mandatory in Virginia that I have to take, one is in addiction, which I teach, but I have to take never mind. I have to take the course. And
you've been teaching it for a while.
Yeah, I've been teaching it for a while. Yeah, they don't count that. They do not count that. So I have to take that course. It should be. I'm waiting to see if it's a different textbook. And human sexuality, which again I also teach we teach many, many psychology courses at Kaiser, and I'm certified to teach them, but I'm not certified to be licensed in them. Yay, Florida. So, and
you
I
may
can
have to double check and see if those books have been banned by next week.
No comment.
Oh gosh, what a mess! What a mess.
Well, and it's and I get it, right? I get the idea. You want to make sure that people who do something are qualified, and I agree with that. Sometimes it's just you have to question whether or not there's a real human being interacting, and there is. There are 3 of them, actually, that work on that licensing review piece. But they have to follow their rules.
Mm-hmm. Why wouldn't all the states have a uniform policy that's transferable?
Like doctors? Because counseling hasn't gotten there yet. It's a later medical... If you look at mental health is behind physical health. Because for the most part, you can see when somebody has a gaping wound on their body. It's visible. You can tell.
Right, obviously.
But if somebody's got a gaping wound in their psyche, it's not quite so obvious necessarily. And for a long time, society has judged mental illness as a character flaw. It's not a character flaw. It's a disorder, folks. And just as you might need to learn how to walk better, more effectively, you might need some professionals to help you handle anger, fear, anxiety, grief, any of those things. They can all become disorders. Right? If the cat scratches you, it's annoying. It may or may not break blood. It may or may not break the skin. It may or may not get infected. If it gets really deep, you need medical attention. And even if it doesn't, hopefully you know enough to wash it in an antibiotic and take care of it and wash the wound, if it's a wound. But if there's an emotional wound or a psychological wound, we don't necessarily take care of those, and some of them can get infected, for lack of a better model. And so people do need to work at it, and sometimes they need medical, pharmaceutical. There's a place for pharmaceutical assistance. Right? It's just there. So, that's just life. And it's not a character flaw. It's not a defect. It's just who and what we are. And sometimes we need help. It's one of the phrases I've got a couple of congregants will say to me, well, God never gives you more than you can handle. And I'd like to point out to them, there's a second part to that phrase, which is with help. Right? We are social creatures.
I never even thought of that.
We are designed to be in community. We have special neurons in our brains that pay attention to what others are doing and use that information to help us form effective, healthy responses. And sometimes if we're in the wrong crowd, or if some of that neuron mechanics are not firing right, we might make some bad decisions.
Now, a question as far as prescriptions, if you will. Can you actually prescribe?
I cannot,
anything?
but I can connect people. I can work with somebody who can.
Okay, gotcha.
So that would be how I would work with somebody. And I am an intern, which means I have supervisors. I have people who are watching to make sure I don't mess somebody up. They're reasonably confident, they tell me. But that's a state requirement, and that'll go on for 100 weeks. And I'm still in Liberty for another, 70, 80 weeks, something like that. So the good news is that if I didn't have... So my doctorate is worth something.
Here's so what university are you going to after you get out of Liberty?
I'm actually thinking about that.
No. It's... You never stop.
I don't.
You never stop.
Well, again, I recognize the importance of building those synapses, I don't intend to let this brain go to seed. I've put too much into it.
Oh, mine went to seed 20 years ago.
I'm not talking there. Not going there. Not going to deal with it.
Just ask Carol.
No comment.
Oh.
Okay, so and how are you dealing with that? How is that working for you?
Just
Tell me more.
Just kind of drifting along.
So if anybody is interested in working with me, well, please contact me after next week. I'll know how to set up the insurance after next week. That's my first lesson with one of my supervisors, how to set up the insurance.
Very cool.
But,
so now where are you going to be located?
Well, part of it will be here in Port St. Lucie, and part of it will be telehealth, and I will probably go up to Orlando a couple of times and do some locally there at one of my supervisor's offices.
That's awesome.
So it's a combination.
It's exciting.
Of all those things.
That's really exciting.
For Florida, all of the hours can be telehealth. For Liberty, only half of their contact hours. Right, so that's an interesting thing, right? You're required to have X number of hours. You're required to have 100 hours for the practicum, for example. That's starting in January. I'm going to be seeing people for Florida. I've got these multiple paths going on. I'm always parallel processing, as you know. But for the practicum, it's 100 hours, but only 40 of those hours are actually face-to-face therapy.
Oh, okay.
So another 15 of those have to be my therapy with my supervisor. So that'll be reviewing what I'm doing with my clients and working through anything that I choose to work with. So my supervisor will document that. And then the rest of the time can be filling out the reports, administering assessments, assorted things that are not face-to-face. So really the 100 hours is not 100 hours of face-to-face. The requirement for Florida is a total of 1,000 hours over 100 weeks. And that started Monday. So this is almost the end of the first week. Obviously, I haven't done any yet this week, but there'll be weeks that I'll do more than 10. Mm-hmm. And it'll all even out by the end. And I have confidence in that. But again, it's not 10 hours of therapy. It's not 10 hours of face-to-face. It's 10 hours of being a therapist. And being a therapist is much more than just the face-to-face. So it's all of it. And we'll be doing that. Hopefully I'll be able to get a couple of groups going locally. I'd like to do that I'd like to have a grief group to work together. I think that's really important.
And that's overlooked by so many people.
It is, and I think that here in Port St. Lucie, with an older population, we definitely need to do it. But we also have a really underserved group in the world, which are parents who've lost a child. And there's a ton of those in the world as well.
It's got to be horrible.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter.
Can't even comprehend that.
And it doesn't matter if it's somebody your age who loses a child or somebody younger who loses a young child. It doesn't matter. It still hurts. And it hurts in ways that it's... There's a term called veloma, which is somebody... That's what the person's called who loses a child. And that word comes from the Latin meaning against the natural order. Right, because the expectation is that our children will take care of us as we age instead of the other way around. And we're now facing a real serious issue as the boomers age and as medical technology does what it does versus the toxic environment we're living in. We may be looking at the environment, the generation that's going to live longer than their children.
Mm-hmm.
So we are harming the kids coming up by all of the climate and the pollution that's out there, and just some of the bad choices that kids are making. So, yeah, those are things that I think are coming. And there's no shortage of work that people need in this area. Yeah. And it takes, and I can't save the world. I get that. And it's kind of the starfish thing walking on the beach, right? The guy who's throwing the starfish back in the water. And somebody says, well, you can't save them all. And I said, yeah, but tell it to the starfish.
Right? I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I look at what I'm doing. I can't save everybody who's suffering. I can't. And I wouldn't even be able to help everybody. Not everybody's going to respond to the style that I'll use. And you do need to find the therapist, the counselor, the psychologist, the psychiatrist, whichever of those that you choose to use. Find the one that resonates with you, that's using a technique where you can work with them. Because not everybody will.
Mm-hmm.
That's just human nature. We are who and what we are, and we need to work. And you do the same thing with a doctor. Don't work with a medical doctor who doesn't resonate with you, who's not giving you the attention you need, who doesn't know enough about your condition, who doesn't take you seriously. You need to work with somebody who's going to be there for you, because that's the best way to get the help that you need. We all need help. That's why I'm required to have a week of session with my supervisor. And it's not just talking about my clients. It's also talking about me. However it needs to split out, that's up to her her and me to negotiate. Or him and me. One of my supervisors is male. So that's just part of what I'm going to be looking at and working with.
Now, is your field, psychologist,
Mm-hmm.
dominated by women overall? The ones that I've seen on television say, and I know that's a small sample, but they're all women.
They're not all women, but it is a career field that, yes, has a lot of women in it. I think that we're seeing professors are becoming more and more women over time.
Oh, yeah.
Teachers have always been dominantly women. And I think that's the societal idea that women are nurturing.
Caring,
you bet. Linguistic, right? Because most of the linguistics, a lot of therapy is being able to speak and hear and understand the words like auspices, right? To understand the different meanings of words and being willing to look them up when you need to. And we're seeing men going more police officers are still men. It's a physical career field. I wish there was more counselor training. Absolutely, we would not see the level of violence that we see if police officers were trained in de-escalation techniques.
Well, ironically, was watching some video, and the new rookie class for the Port St. Lucie Police Department is dominated by women. It's great.
Yeah. Students, they're moving toward a more educated recruiting piece. But I'll tell you, I was actually quite sad. I'll say this, and I educate some of those officers and future officers right at Kaiser, because we've got a department for forensics, and but we had a job fair a few weeks ago at Kaiser for students, both currently students who are looking for work while they're students, and those who are looking to move into career fields. And there was a video playing. The Port St. Lucie Police Department had a table. That's great. They and the Sheriff Department both had tables. The Port St. Lucie Police one, though, had a video playing. And what it showed was SWAT teams going in with automatic weapons, crashing down through doors. And I'm like, if that's your recruiting material, folks, let's think for a minute, folks, please. That should not be the foremost image.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. That was like, I was kind of like, no. My students, if they watch this video, will laugh, because there's a video that I show when I'm talking about helping mothers form healthy babies, and it's a nurse telling somebody no for all the drugs they're doing.
Oh, yeah.
But when I looked at that as a recruiting video, I was like, I don't think that's the crowd I want guarding my house.
And especially at Kaiser. It's just kind of a specialized school, and
well, I don't want any police officer whose main thought is, "Oh, that's me, the AK coming through the door."
Kick down the door.
Yeah. Yes, that might be great for NCIS on TV. But again, and a kudos to the NCIS producers. They actually do spend some time showing them doing the paperwork, trying to get the after-action reports done, the interaction in the office, and how lucky they are when they actually can figure something out, that it is the mass spect, right? It's the forensics that leads to the clues, and it's the catching the little things that people say and do and realizing when they're hiding something.
And NCIS Australia coming soon.
Ah, okay. I did not know about that one.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
A new one coming into the family. Okay.
Saw one of the promos, and it's like, okay. And of course, until the television show started, I didn't even know that the Navy had that kind of an organization.
I think a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
Right, and all the forces have their own internal police.
I'm sure they do.
And we occasionally see that. I'm trying to think of which one it is that has the Coast Guard. I guess it's the main NCIS that every once in a while has the Coast Guard.
Oh, yeah.
Interacting with them. And, so every group has their
Well, in the
cops.
Air Force, we had regular military police.
Yeah, Sky Cops,
Sky Cops.
as we used to call them, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they would occasionally recruit me to do really dumb things like walk out on the flight line and see if I got shot.
Yes.
Well, because we were a field that had an alert bird during the days of SAC. I'm dating myself.
Oh.
But yeah, so I was just periodically. I was a willing participant, I guess. I was a lot thinner, so I could be less seen. But
Yeah. No, my only incident on a tarmac was running a tape up to an American Airlines pilot who lived in the same condo complex that we did. I threw it up into the cockpit.
Oh, wow.
He takes off. And this is in my ESPN days. And the FBI was there to greet to greet us on the tarmac. They weren't happy.
yeah, those folks generally don't like stuff like that.
But the tape made it on SportsCenter on
Okay.
the morning show.
Gotcha. We're gonna check this out. What exactly? What were you doing up there, sir?
Yeah. What's in that can? Oh, yeah, crazy.
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy.
That's a good throwing arm, though, to get the.
Actually, yeah, I was proud of myself. Yeah.
With my luck,
it's a long way up there.
With my luck, I'd have dinged the airplane, and then they've had to stop the flight.
I was worried about that too.
Sucked into an engine, or never mind.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting times, and so life is this interesting piece, and we continue on, and yeah. I was writing a piece for Liberty, actually, part of my homework, which was to discuss an inciting incident, something that changed my life. And the book that we read a chapter in the book and then we respond because he talks about things that hit the prompt. Okay, Mevo, let's not have our own mind here.
Speaking of hitting the prompt.
Yeah. Yeah,
all four lights are still on.
It's just wanted to do something here on the screen, like it started growing somehow. It wanted to pan out all on its own. Every once in a while, it gets one of these wild spurs and just does something. Anyway, broke my mind, yes. So we read this chapter and then we respond to a question. And this was, what is some event that happened that changed your life? And I actually picked one that wasn't a sharp tragedy. It was a very interesting to me incident out of Akron. I was at Akron General, and I was working with a patient in one of the locked wards as a chaplain. And I think when I came back in after the patient and I had talked the day before, the nurses all said, "How did you do that? What did you do?" Because he's back to normal. he's able to handle and things look well. He's talking to his wife and all that. And what struck me in that moment was that too many in the medical profession start relying on the textbooks instead of paying enough attention to what's unique and what takes it out of the textbook for this situation. It's not, people are not cookbook. And
exactly.
every once in a while.
We're all different.
We are all different. We're a very unique set. And that's why, even though I'm saying I want to do group, because I think group offers some different help, different support to each of its members. I'm not talking a huge group, a small group. But even one-on-one, everybody has what they need, and it's only by individualized attention that one can hope to find those little things. And in this case, I think it was that everybody was telling this guy what he needed to do. And what he really needed to do was be told, no, you have to make a decision. You are capable of making a decision. Spend some time, reflect on it, and then look at your heart and your mind and make a decision. Because that's what I had told him when I left that Sunday afternoon after talking with him. I said, I'm not going to tell you what your decision is. I don't care. I don't care. I'm going to support you whichever way you go. You have two choices in front of you. We had outlined the situation. I said, you pick.
So you were locked in with him?
I was not locked in with him. It's a locked ward, which means the doors out of the ward, out of the department, are locked only. My badge would get me in and out, but the patients cannot. It's for their own safety. They're in there because they've either harmed themselves or somebody else, or tried to. And in this case, the gentleman had actually tried to suicide, and he hadn't been successful, and so he was in there. And that was the takeaway that I got from that event, was that because I had said to him, you spend the time. You make the decision. I don't care what it is. I will support you. I will sit and pray with you. I will do whatever we need to do to get you to move forward on your choice.
And he did a 180.
And, well, he did what I actually hoped he would do, but I didn't actually expect it. He surprised me. Because what he decided to do was, in fact, what everybody had been telling him he should do. But because they were telling him should, his lack of autonomy was interfering with his being able to move that way. But because I gave it to him 2 barrels forward, I don't care. I no judgment here. I don't care what you decide. I'm here to support you. And I'm here to ask God to support you as well. Because it was on a religious side. And so am I going to bring religion into therapy? Not unless the client asks for it. Right? What I believe is mine. I'm here to bring my skills to the table. And, the client will determine how and what and where we go.
How do you know when they're telling the truth?
You get them to figure it out.
Okay.
People will always shade things. Sometimes it's the way they envision it. So I'm going to say that's a little bit different from a lie. And what I mean by that is if if I take this thermos and you ask me, did you take the thermos? And I say, no, that's a lie. But if you ask me to describe an event, I may selectively describe it. I may not remember doing something. And so that's a faulty memory rather than a lie.
Okay.
Our memories do play tricks on us. They do. We don't notice things. There is a wonderful exercise that I do in both my philosophy classes and in my psychology classes. It's called selective attention. You can find it on YouTube. But it's a great video of a group of 6 players, 6 white-shirted and 6 black-shirted players. And you're told to count the times that the players in white pass the ball. And it's whatever number it is. And so while they're doing that, a gorilla comes across, pounds its chest, and walks through. And most people miss the gorilla.
Because they're looking at the ball.
Because they're looking at the ball.
Yes. I get that.
And those who know the right, and if you look for the gorilla, you miss the number of passes because you haven't focused on that. So you've got to both see the gorilla and get the correct number of passes. But then, did you notice the player leaving the group on the black-shirted team? Did you notice the curtain going from red to yellow?
Wow.
And the tagline on that video is, when you're looking for a gorilla, you might just miss other things.
Yeah.
There's another one where somebody's doing a whodunit. Right? And so they've got an Inspector Clouseau type of character who there's a body on the rug in front of him, and there's the butler, the maid, the wife or now widow, and somebody else. It's obviously a very wealthy person, and the constable and his, or the investigator, I guess, and his cohort who's with him, the other police type. It's a British scene, but and they start interrogating the witnesses and asking them where they were and what they were doing, and there are 27 changes on that set while it's ongoing.
Whoa.
So there's a statue behind the maid, and it changes. It changes from something to a knight. She's holding something, and she's holding something else. At the end of it, the butler starts out with a rolling pin and ends up with a sconce kind of thing, and the widow changes the pots and flowers that she's holding, and coats change, and the carpet changes, and the table changes, and the chair changes. There's all different things that happen in this scene, and then they play it back and they show it to you from behind the scene. So it's not just the various camera angles that, of course, facilitate the change.
Sure.
The changes happen off camera. But then they take a camera that's filming the whole thing from behind, and you see all of the set people come in and do all the changes. You see the corpse roll off the carpet. They pull the carpet. He gets back on, and they lay something next to him that's different from what had originally been there. And, yeah, it's kind of funny. And so the students all, it's camera angle. No, it's observation, if you notice it, because the inspector goes from a dark gray coat to a white one. It is attention. And then there's another great one where the guy says he's a pickpocket and he's going to go shopping, and he brings somebody up, and he shows them how he lifts the watch off the guy's arm. So the audience can see it. The guy doesn't notice it. And then he puts it on his own arm and says, "Oh, look here," you know. Yeah. And the other thing that's kind of interesting, at the beginning of the show, he asks people to make a note of what he's wearing. And the camera doesn't leave him the whole time. But by the time he's done, he's in a different outfit.
Wait a minute. Single camera?
Single camera. People are just not paying attention.
Whoa.
If you play it back slowly, you can see him doing it. You can see him whisking off the jacket and the vest and changing what he's wearing. But you don't pay attention. Right, so the point...
Oh, wow.
The point of that is not that he's... And obviously this guy has practiced it and is very soft with his fingers and doing stuff. But what he says is the key is not that as much as it is distraction. If we can direct your attention elsewhere, you will miss things.
Mm-hmm. I get that.
Because we do not have infinite attention capacity. We just don't. We're human beings. We're perfectly human. And so we're going to miss things. So now I'm going to pull the rabbi stunt on you and say, so how does that fit in with, say, Bible study or scriptures? That's why you always see something new when you read over old texts because you're paying attention to something different. It hooks in and means different things to you now. And that is the test of time of the Bible, is that it has so many layers, so much depth, that it does connect to us different ways at different times, according to what we need in the moment. And just as that patient that I worked with was able to make a good decision once he was empowered to do so, so can each of us if we make ourselves empowered or empower others to make the right decision. We need to trust people to make good decisions. People will. I believe that. I believe people are basically good at heart. And if somebody is going to intentionally lie to me, they're hurting themselves. They're not going to get the benefit of the treatment. That's the other reality. They're not going to get to their problem. So I need to work with them to get down to what is that problem and to help empower them to move forward on it. That's my job. Because in life, too few people are listened to. Right? None of us are listened to as much as we want and need. Especially the needy ones, because they turn people off really quick. And the key is how do you get down through that? What's the motive behind that? What are you really looking for? What do you need? And why do you need it? And is that the healthiest way to get it? That's the bottom question, right? Is your coping mechanism, because we all use coping mechanism, really constructive? Is it helping you? Is it helping others? Are we moving ourselves and society forward? Or are we hurting people to try to get what we need, what we think we need? And isn't there a better way to get what you want? Right? My 2 dogs will get more treats if they don't fight. Right? If they get into a brother fight, because I've got 2 males, then they're going to lose their treats, and they're both going to suffer. It's the prisoner's dilemma in reality. When you work together, everybody does a little, but it works better for the group.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not going to have to worry about when the guy gets out and realizes that you snitched. It's just life. Right? Yeah. So, those are all things that I guess is the bottom line. We are who we are, and we do need mental health, and we've needed mental health since dirt. One of the courses I'd love to teach sometime is the psychology in the Bible, because there's tons of it. There's addiction, there's alcoholism, there's who's lying, who's got fits of jealousy, who's got this, who's got that. And the Bible has a couple of things. It recognizes that eyewitnesses don't always see the gorilla or the curtain change. They don't see all of the various things. And so it says by 2 or 3, preferably, for a capital crime.
Mm-hmm.
And what a lot of people don't realize is it's not just like a married couple being the witness. It has to be unrelated people who get tested and interrogated by the judges. So it wasn't a simple system. It wasn't meant to be, because the ramifications are so serious. And yet we need to keep society safe from people who are not able to contain themselves and lash out. So we need to help people.
So is that course even around?
I don't know of anybody that teaches it, but I'd love to.
I think that would be fascinating.
I think it'd be a lot of fun. Maybe I'll build that and offer it in my copious spare time.
The 2 hours that you're sleeping? Yeah.
We'll wait for Liberty to settle down a little bit. And not to be teaching a double at Kaiser.
There you go.
All of that.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't have that every term, but I do this term. I've got two classes at Kaiser, and that's a full load, folks. Yeah. It doesn't sound like much, but it is when they only go for a month. It's a lot of hours every week to work with students. But I love my students. That's why I do it. They're the bottom line for me. It wouldn't be worth doing. People constantly say to me, well, why do you do this? That's why. Mm-hmm. Because the students that I teach will go out and they'll throw starfish back in the sea. They'll help people. And hopefully they'll help themselves along the way, too. I invite them to do that. I invite them to look at the psychology and apply it to ourselves, just as I'm being forced to do. And a big part of what we do when we train psychologists or chaplains or any of those folks who work with it is get your own stuff out of the way so that you can meet the person where they are. And I wish in some ways there are two things that I actually wish everybody went through. One of them is the first week of basic training through the confidence course, because I think that's really important to learn those things about yourself. And then some of this personal reflection to get your own stuff out of the way so that we can help others, so that we are there for it when God gives you something, you need to handle it with help, that we're able to help each other. I think that as a society, we've got a ton of work to do to make the world better, to make it easier to be human beings in it, to recognize that each of us is perfect, not perfect beings, but perfectly human. And that means...
Yeah, and I've never heard that with help. I mean, that's something
it needs to be there. People need to be saying that. It's with help. That's how we're designed. Right? That's how God made us, if you're going to go the God path. Or that's how nature has made us, if you're going to go the other path. I don't care which one you do. In ancient Hebrew, God and nature were kind of the same thing. But that's because Judaism started out as an indigenous religion, and it's only over time that it became a portable world religion. Right. So indigenous religions, when they have to start moving, become world religions.
Portable world religion.
Right. That's when Torah became a scroll, so you could carry it.
Okay.
Portable world religion.
On the Silk Road. Oh, no.
I'm sure that Torahs went up and down the Silk Road. Once Ezra and Nehemiah committed it to parchment, off it went. And so may everybody find their path, their way to help each other and themselves. May it be a wonderful, wonderful week. This is Hoshana Rabbah, the day where we beat the palm branches and the willows. Moving into other holidays. I'll talk more about those next week. Have a great week, everyone. This is Rabbi Shafir Loeb for Congregation Eitz Chayim, your Jewish home on the Treasure Coast.
And congratulations once again to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You've been listening to Ask a Rabbi right here on WPSL, Port St. Lucie. Talking to the Treasure Coast, webcaster to the world, now in 48 countries. Wow.